Alright guys, well, sorry about the shirtless video. It is hot as fuck in my house right now. The air conditioner's broken. I'm buying a new car tomorrow. And, well, really my dad's helping me with it for my birthday. And I'm really stoked about that. My dad hasn't helped me out with something like that, like something really expensive for a long, long time. You know, he's just happy that I'm off fucking heroin, you know, and I'm not drinking and I'm doing good stuff. You know, I really apologize. I was completely out of my mind. So I found out that, you know, that this dude had given me a mint with peyote, and it wasn't like a full dose or anything. I've done peyote 3 times, and it's extremely, extremely powerful stuff. It makes you really sick, you know. I'm gonna do a whole psychedelic series at some point, and you know, I'll go through. I mean, man, I've just had some pretty wild experiences on psychedelics. I went to Burning Man in 2008, and somebody dosed me with like a really proper dose of peyote. I was tripping for 2 days, and then while I was at Burning Man, I was with Paul, and I got butt naked, wore a sombrero. I walked around naked for 24 hours taking acid, and it was just really actually a pretty amazing experience. Pretty liberating, you know. And psychedelics are, I think, interesting. I think they make some interesting stories. Like, there's so many series, you know, that I think that I could do that I haven't done yet. I think you'd be surprised how much crazy stories I have outside of kind of like what I consider like the episodic life story stuff, you know, the different series. And I think that eventually I'm going to turn all of the series on YouTube into books, you know, I mean, not based on the videos, but like, say, you know, my 5 years in the feds, how I made $500,000, all that stuff, in little like Bukowski-esque memoir type books. You know, because I really like I know it's pitch dark, I underutilize the writing thing, and I wish that I was writing more. You know, it's been hard to find stability, you know, and you guys have given it to me, and I'm like super, super, super fucking grateful for that. I'm going to do a story right now. We're going to get in the light though. It's not going to be in pitch dark like this. And, you know, I feel like I dropped the ball a little bit, and that I didn't work hard enough at the end of the month. Negative comments really affect me in a bad way. They shouldn't, you know, because when you do negative comments, you're for sure projecting. Like I never do that, man. I never do that, but you know, people do. And it's like, I just, you know, I do work pretty hard, but I hate it when people think that like, I'm not like holding up my end of the bargain. I fucking hate it. I'm so fucking busy. Like, I'm so busy trying to juggle it all. And I'm not complaining about that at all. You know, I hope that you don't take that as me complaining about it, or that I'm not grateful for the position that I'm in, that you put me in. You know, I could never do this without you guys. And this next month of Patreon, I really do want to focus, like, I want to get into a structure. I stopped microdosing, you know, a few weeks ago. Not for any particular reason other than I just didn't have pill capsules, but it seemed to be helping. And then I had like this really bad, like, suicidal ideation thing happen. And that's been happening since 2013. Like, I've really struggled with suicidal ideation. Then I tried to kill myself. You are such a drug addict. That bitch. I tried to kill myself because I just couldn't. I mean, it was, you know, Christmas, nobody wanted me. I don't know. I was ready to check out. And suicidal ideation for me isn't like thinking about like slitting my wrist or anything. It's more like delusional shit. Like, you know, my family would be better off if I died, or you know, if I die, I'll go viral and then my kid will be taken care of. You know, it's like really, really weird, like, you know, shit. And stigmatized, you know, you start talking about suicide and everything. People really judge you for that. And that's too bad because, you know, I've lost friends to that, and it's pretty common with PTSD. I think maybe, I mean, the third prison term fucked me up bad. You know, like, when I'm, like, going down the street and I see, like, a couple, like, Southsiders or anything like that, I, like, completely, like, you know, go back there. Last night while I was tripping, I had, like, a complete terror. Like, I was seeing that guy who got his eye, like, he got hit with the boiling baby oil and his eye came out. Those riots I was in, like, got me so jumpy. Like, if you walk up on me, I will literally, like, get transported for 3 seconds. It's a real thing. And, like, I know people that have done time in, like, high security prisons know what I'm talking about. People that have had to fight for our country in wars know what that's like. People that have been raped, you know, very badly sexually traumatized or physically abused, deal with PTSD as well. And it's really affected me badly because I have just debilitating ADD, just hardcore, like, can't remember stuff, can't schedule my time. Like, man, I wake up and I run out of time like that, you know. I got so many people call me and want different shit out of me, and I'm just like, you know, I mean, basically a bunch of dudes want to suck my dick. They're like, hey, bro, this is what I want to do. And I'm like, what? Are you serious? I have color tattoos. And they're like, that's exactly why. It's fucking pretty. Nobody talks like that. I'm sorry. I'll never do that again, I promise. But, no, I mean, you know, I'm just trying to do a lot of stuff. And we're going to get to, the Narcan project. I want to tackle that. It hasn't been, you know, it hasn't gone through with the Secretary of State. Like I said, I paid for it on LegalZoom. Takes a while. I chose the most expensive expedited package, but still, it takes a while. And you know, obviously I want my Patreon guys to have first dibs. We'll probably do some sort of election because I want to structure the nonprofit in a way where it's like very like democratic. Everybody can be involved. I know a lot of people are passionate about saving, you know, the lives of the addicted because it's just a tragic thing. I mean, you know, I can't emphasize enough how badly Paul's death like affected me in every sense, positive ways as well. And I truly think that that's one of his final gifts was, you know, his death woke me up. And we're going to get into what really happened last year right now. But, you know, I relapsed on heroin, you know, and I couldn't tell anyone. And it was really like, I'm going to go into it. It got really ugly. I overdosed. I have a video of it that I'll post on the sponsor tier. And I'm going to do a parting with celebrities tonight too for the sponsor tier. And I might do a Florida. Sponsor tier gets the parting with celebrities just because it's kind of sensitive information to a degree. I'll try to do Florida, and I do have a China that I can upload, and I will look for that. I mean, you know, when I tell you these things, I'm not making the shit up. I'm just really disorganized. That's it. So let's get into the story. I know that was a 9-minute introduction, but let's get into it. Because so I'm working at this roofing job, and I'm just not selling shit. You know, I'll go. I mean, I have a neck tattoo. I have knuckle tattoos, and I go in there, and I'm like, hey, man, I'm not a drug addict. It's the first thing I say. No, it's not the first thing I say, but you know, I look kind of shady. You know, I have that shady look. I do. Know what? So I think that affected my ability to sell roofs. I saw that somebody asked, you know, about if I was pitching proposals from other people. No, I wrote them myself. I measured the roof. You know, I counted the layers. I did all that. Yeah, it would take, like, I did the estimates myself. So if you know anything about roofing, you know that it's incredibly complex. It's very difficult to learn. And, you know, I don't know. It's just, it was super. And another thing is that it was like the guy that was running that company wanted to take advantage of people. Like, let's fuck people over. And we were doing equity lines where, you know, they put liens on your house. And I was no stranger to that. I did that when I was selling solar. But, you know, I don't like taking advantage of families. I don't like sitting in somebody's house and knowing that they're essentially, you know, getting ass fucked by, you know, independent contractors. I don't like any of that. I mean, fundamentally, it goes against everything I believe. I don't like predatory practices by anybody. So, you know, it wasn't just the fact that I wasn't selling roofs, spending money on gas. It was the fact that I truly believed that I was doing some straight dirtbag shit, taking advantage of families. And I was talking to Paul every day at that point. Talking to Jeff, talking to Nick. These are like my 3 closest friends, you know? They're, you know, Paul's gone now. But around this time, the whole thing with SAS happened. So it was a very interesting chain of events. This girl that I knew, as I talked about before, had hit me up. When I went to the feds in 2009, people thought that I snitched. That was the first thing. Now, the reason that they thought that I snitched is this. The girl that I got arrested with, she did snitch. She never was indicted. I knew that she snitched. And I went and tried to warn people about it. You know, I was like, hey, she's cooperating with law enforcement. You know, she told me the reason that she cooperated is just because this guy, Sass, had raped one of her friends. And she's like, well, he raped one of my friends, so I'm just going to tell on him. So I tried to warn somebody about that. Her boyfriend at the time, who's like a really, really cool person too. You know, out of all those people, I miss him the most. That was a very, very interesting time in my life when I was selling drugs on that level. Because it's its own industry. You know, we'd have industry parties. And I started knowing a lot of people my age that were selling drugs on that level. And the kind of parties that they would have were just incredibly elaborate, you know. We'd have like string cheese incident play parties. We'd have some of the top DJs at the time. Just a bunch of like really legendary EDM and underground hip hop people that they would pay privately, fly them out. We'd have parties, you know, and it was ridiculous. You know, at 20 years old, 21 years old, 22 years old, I was hanging out with a lot of self-made cash millionaires. A lot of those people transitioned into the cannabis industry on the medical side first and now the recreational. And I can say quite a few of those people are millionaires. They thought that I snitched in 2009, you know, and I got kind of a hateful letter while I was in the feds the first time from one of those people. They said that they thought that I was a snitch and that they also thought that I'd polluted their scene. Because when I went there, when I hung out with these guys at first, they were all psychedelic, like psychonaut types. You know, they do acid, they do mushrooms, they go to festivals, you know. And all of them were essentially new age hippies, you know, outlaw hippies, kind of like the Grateful Dead kind of people. And you know, before I came, they were just partying with club drugs. You know, a lot of MDMA, a lot of LSD, a lot of GHB, stuff like that, ketamine. I mean, I could do a whole series on partying with those people because, I mean, it was fucking out of control. You know, I mean, the snake ordinance happened at their house, for instance. So, and the feds, it's funny because it was the complete opposite. The chain of snitching stopped with me. Nobody went to prison on my case after me, you know? And, you know, the paperwork for sure proves that. I mean, I have the discovery, I have my statements, all that shit. And, you know, when I got out, because I had thought about that money for so long, one of the first things I did was try to clear my name, and I did, you know, to a few people, and people still kind of stayed away from me. And I don't blame them. I mean, out of all the people that was in that group, I'm probably the only one that went to prison because I broke the cardinal rule. Don't sell heroin, meth, or cocaine. And I sold heroin because I was a heroin addict. And I got busted for selling heroin. These guys were selling club drugs. It wasn't on the radar of the DEA. So when this girl hit me up, and, you know, a lot of that too is like seeing me get a little more successful. You know, they see me with celebrities and stuff. And, you know, it's kind of funny when you start like doing stuff like that, posting pictures and having associations, people from your past life just are like, hey man, what's up? And you're like, what the fuck? I haven't talked to you since like 98. And then he's like, yeah, well, I just happened to call you. Hey man, I don't know. My sister really likes Johnny Depp. Think we can make something happen? Someone messaged me the other day and he goes, hey, do you know who so-and-so is? I'm like, no. Jack Knight or something? Like, no. He's like, he's a YouTube guy. Well, my sister really likes him. This is a guy I hadn't talked to in 10 years. I was in prison in Wisconsin. My daughter really likes him, and I heard he lives in LA, and I was just wondering if you could introduce me. And so I didn't respond, right, for like an hour or something. And this is on Facebook Messenger. And then all of a sudden he writes back, he goes, listen, bro, I'm not one of your fans. Like, I'm a bro. I'm a homie. You need to introduce my daughter to this fucking YouTube guy. I'm like, bro, I don't even know who that is. What do you think? I hang out on some YouTube island with TikTok mermaids and Instagram gays? Like, hey, bro, is that what you think? And then he didn't write me back. I really said the thing about TikTok or Instagram gays. I think that offended him. You know, he likes his IG. But anyway, it's just interesting that people from the past come creeping back into your life. So this girl was one of them. And, you know, she basically said that, you know, she wanted to reconnect. And she acted like nothing ever happened. There's a girl I was friends with in high school. She's like the princess of herb. She's always been kind of a legend. I mean, this girl has probably sold 1 million pounds in her life. Seriously, she's like on that level. You know, very, very big in that world and had been for a very long time. So we reconnect. And then shortly after there, coincidentally, this guy hits me up. I never even knew this guy. This guy's a fucking legend. Big time weed guy. Like the biggest you could possibly fucking imagine. Like on Sinister's level. A big time guy. Everyone knew who he was. And I guess what's interesting is he was living in Belgium. And this is why he hit me up. I forgot to mention this in the earlier video. He reached out to me, and this has been happening more and more. Like, I only have like 13,000 something subscribers, but I have like loyal, good YouTube subscribers. Well, a lot of them talk a lot of shit, and that's okay. But I have, you know, people that religiously watch it when I post it, right? A lot of channels don't have that. Maybe because I'm self-deprecating, I just don't give a fuck. I'm like, yeah, my dick's small, personality bomb, my butthole's hung. So? Alright, I don't know. All right. I'm still kind of like halfway, not, you know, I'm not all the way there right now. So this guy had hit me up and he said, I don't know what I was just going into, but he said, hey man, this is so-and-so. You know, we've never met, but I know who you are. And I'm sure you know who I am. And, you know, he's like, recently I've been watching your YouTube stuff and, oh wait. Okay, so this is after Al Prophet. That's right. I couldn't remember if this was before or after. So this had to be after because I already have my YouTube channel. Sorry, I got that part confused. Okay, so I'll circle back around. You know, just know that the YouTube thing had just started. You know, I didn't have a lot of subscribers at the time, maybe like 2,000 or 3,000. And which is a lot, but you know, it was just starting out. So, but what he said is that he was a fan of the videos, and that one of his friends was like a diehard fan, like loved him. You know, he's like, dude, you're like his favorite thing to watch. He's suicidal. He's having mental health problems, and nobody can talk to him. If you can reach out to him, I hope we can get him into a psych ward. I said, that's no problem. Give me his name, you know? And so I hit him up out of nowhere, and I said, hey, this is Ryan Leone. I'm friends with your friend so-and-so. And, you know, man, a lot of people want you to get help. I'm no stranger to suicidal stuff. I have mental health problems myself. Can you please do your family and your friends a favor, if only for them, and go get an evaluation? And he did. He actually ended up going to the hospital because of what I said, which is cool. You know, it's cool when stuff like that happens. And, you know, I used to read my messages when I didn't get too many of them. And a lot of people said that I helped them, you know, and shit, man, that makes it worth it to me, you know. A lot of this stuff is funny, but at the end of the day, it's also laced with a lot of real pain. I went through quite a bit, and if that can help people, I'm all for it, you know. So we started talking, and I told him basically the story about how Jenny had pistol whipped Sass, and how there's this other guy named Shamrock that had co-signed. He goes, are you serious? You know that Shamrock's the biggest weed dealer in California right now. And so he starts sending me photographs, right? He starts sending me photographs of these grow operations. And I'm telling you, it is the biggest thing I've ever seen. Acres upon acres upon acres of light depth. Millions of dollars worth of weed. He co-signed for $70,000, so now it's in my mind to get it. Since I fucked up the chronology, let me go back to what happened right around that time. So before this happened, Seth Ferrante, you know, I've talked about him before. Super fucking interesting guy. He was a LSD and marijuana kingpin. He served 21 years in federal prison. He faked his own death, was on the U.S. Marshals Most Wanted list. Vice just did a thing on him. He's amazing. He's the guy that did the Huffington Post article about me and the Penthouse. And he's really, like, been there for me my entire career. Like, he's really looked out for me. He called me and he said, hey, he lives in Kansas City, Missouri. He hit me up and he goes, hey, man, I got this guy, Al Prophet. He's got a YouTube show, and it's fairly big. He's got a few 100,000 subscribers. And, you know, I think you'd be a good fit to be on his show. You know, you did time with Big Meech, you know, Boston George, Freeway, all these people. And these are all, you know, Seth introduced me to all those people except for Big Meech. And he knows, like, White Boy Rick. I mean, he knows every, like, counterculture figure you can think of. Seriously. He's a legend in his own right. And I'm doing some collaborative stuff. I'm producing a film with him right now about a murder that happened in Missouri that he just finished. I'm going to be an executive producer on it. He's going to be an executive producer on Idiot Savant. And he asked me to be on this show. So I looked at Al Prophet's stuff. It was the biggest thing to date. I'm going to be on Joe Rogan's show. I'm not sure when, but Johnny promised me that he'd make it happen. And this has been in the works for a while, but I think once I'm on there, it's going to, well, I think I'll go viral is what I'm trying to say. So, you know, I checked his stuff out and it was my birthday. So this is about a year ago. My birthday's coming up on August 3rd. And right before my birthday, the day before, because my parents got Karina and I a vacation to Palm Desert. Palm Desert is right next to Palm Springs, and there's a hotel there called the Desert Springs Marriott. It's a ridiculously nice hotel. I could do an entire series on that, you know. My parents used to take me there all the time when I was a kid. There's a man-made lake that goes into the lobby. So boats come into the lobby, pick you up, and take you to the bars and restaurants that are all throughout the man-made lake and on the property. It's called the Desert Springs, JW Desert Springs Marriott. Google it. It's really dope spot. And so anyway, All sorts of crazy shit has happened to me there. I did crystal meth for the first time there when I was like 14 or 15. I think 15. It's just a really, like, I used to go there for spring break. A lot of crazy shit's gone down there. But anyway, my parents had gotten Karina and I a trip there for my birthday. Day before my birthday, I'm at this place right here, and I decide that if I'm going to be on Al Prophet's show, I may as well start my own channel. I may as well put the Mike Virgin story, since that's by far my best story, in my opinion. You know, I once got offered $400,000 for my life rights for that by a pretty well-known director. You guys would definitely know who he is, but I'm having like issues with that guy right now. Don't want to go into it, but anyway, I couldn't do that because if I sold my life rights, I'd never be able to do the YouTube stuff. I'd never be able to write books or films that have any derivative qualities for my life. So, okay, anyway, I do the Mike Virgin story. I do it in this room. I do it with my phone shaking the whole time because I'm an amateur and I don't realize that, you know, you need like kind of a higher production quality if you want to have a successful channel. Even though I think mine wavered, it took kind of a long time to experiment with it. And now I'm back to just using my iPhone because I got the iPhone 11. The picture quality is really good. So I do the Mike Virgin story. I post it. And I know that when I get back from Palm Springs, I'm going to go do American Dope, the Al Prophet interview, which really opened the door for me, honestly. Like, I owe Al quite a bit, and he's a really good guy. I mean, you know, he's my friend. I hang out with him for non-business stuff too, and it's not very often, but I enjoy hanging out with Al. And so we go to the Palm Desert Marriott. We have this really good trip. That's the time where I went out for sushi, and some family, the mother was like, "So what do you do for a living?" I was like, "Oh, I'm a writer." She's like, "Really? I'm an English teacher. I've always wanted to write a memoir." I was like, "Yeah, I think you should." She's like, "I had a really interesting life. A 90210 life, if you know what I mean." I was like, no, I have no fucking clue what that means. Does that mean you grew up rich? That doesn't sound that fucking interesting. God damn, man. Some people, man. This chick was just like totally... And look, I think everybody should write a memoir because I think everybody's life is interesting, but not hers. Not when you're saying shit like that. Sorry. That's the opposite of interesting. That's like, that makes me want to break beer bottles up into fine dust and eat them so that I die from internal stomach bleeding. I don't really like her. That's what I'm trying to say. Jeez. The peyote like comes back. Look at my, oh man. Woo, it's such a weird substance. It like comes back in waves. For those of you that have done it, I'm on like that thing where it like went away and it's like roaring back. Like, you know, I'm not having hallucinate. Dude, I was having full blown like freak out hallucinations last night. It was wild. But okay, so anyway, we finished that trip. We come back. And, you know, I go, now I'm in debt, like hardcore, right? Super in debt, with my dad. Like, I'm like in such a deficit, you know, and when I get any amount of money, like, so this roofing place ends up, like, I'm not selling anything, so they give me paid training with a new group of guys, and we learn a bunch of stuff. They gave me $500 for a week of training or whatever. So that was like the only money I made, and I probably spent $2,000 to $3,000 on gas. You know, no bullshit. Every single day I'm spending like $40 to $80. So I drive a BMW SUV, and it's just a complete gas guzzler. So one day, you know, I don't know, I'm just not feeling it. I'm just having like a really bad time. And, you know, I tell my boss, I'm like, "Hey, you know what? I can't do this anymore, man. I'm just, you know, I'm not making money. I'm spending money that I don't have. I owe my dad money, and I like to pay debts You know, when I pay my dad back, when I got that $500, I gave him like $100 of it. It may not seem like a lot, but when that's your only income, you know. And then I got this dude Mike living with. Have you ever sucked a dick? And I was like, okay. And that was pretty weird. He was a weird guy. And hold on one second. Hey babe, did you get your debit? Oh, never mind, I found it. Thought I lost her debit card again. I always do that. All right, so I end up, I don't know when I'm going to do the out profit thing, you know, but I know that I need weekly paychecks because my life sucks at that time. Like, I'm living off EBT royalties for my book, and the royalties for my book had dwindled pretty bad. Like, at that point, like, there was a period where I was making about $3,000 a month off my book, and it just kept going down until I started the YouTube channel, and I started getting good royalty checks again. And so I look for jobs, and the only thing I can find is a new telemarketing job. This telemarketing job is in Tarzana, California. So it's in the San Fernando Valley, porn capital of the world. And I go there. It's an Israeli chick that owns it. No shock there. It's all like this weird, like, inside Israeli, like, almost like, I don't know. I don't want to say cult, because that probably sounds pretty xenophobic or whatever. But it's a cult. So, sorry. All right. So I go there and I'm like, you know, I want to be a salesperson. I don't want to be a telemarketer, because they're doing general contracting, you know, and I've been a general contracting salesman where you go out and you sell, like, you know, you sell AstroTurf, solar, all that kind of shit. And she said simply that I couldn't because I was white. And I was like, what the fuck? I told Karina, she's like, we should sue them for that. But she said that she only lets Israeli guys, white, because I'm not Israeli is what she said. She only lets Israeli guys be the salespeople. She's like, you be a telemarketer and I'll give you $13 an hour plus commission. And I'm like, you know, I'm more valuable than that. And she's like, okay, well, we'll see. So the script for that one was to set up general contracting leads, which I had a lot of experience doing. What I would do is I call people. I'd say, yeah, hi, this is Ryan Leone. Don't know if you remember me. We talked about, I don't know, about 6 months ago, and you were inquiring about some home improvement work. You know, I had you in my list of people to follow up through because I'm doing a project in the area. And just wondering if you still had any home improvement stuff on the back burner. If maybe since I'm in the area this week, I could swing by. Today's a good day. And if it's the same day, it's called an IA. Those are worth a lot more money. It's like an instant appointment. And, you know, statistically, they're higher to buy. So my first week there, I just completely, like, I got the biggest numbers. And it was like a weird place. Most of the people that work there were legitimately homeless, you know, which I was just one step above. I mean, I was at the point where I wasn't eating 2-3 days in a row because I didn't have money like that. Oh, shit. Oh, sorry about that. It is so fucking hot in here. It's ridiculous. So they moved, you know, it was like mostly homeless people, mostly people that couldn't get jobs, mostly people that were smoking crystal meth, whatever, you know. And, you know, it sucked because I wasn't eating. I'm going to these food banks, and, like, we'd have, like, 1 can of peaches, and I'd be like, all right, you and Mike and Nico split the can of peaches. If I can just have, like, a taste of the syrup, that would be dope. And then, you know, they'll be, like, we'd all be sitting there, like, eating 1 peach. I mean, it was, like, some real, like, crazy poverty shit. And, you know, I was really trying hard. I had to commute 2 hours each way to go to this job. It was absolutely horrible. You know, they treated me like shit. I felt like I was more valuable than that. Around the time I started writing a screen. Okay, so Nick Stahl told me that he had a financier friend that was, you know, looking to finance like a cheap horror movie. So he's like, do you think you can write one? I was like, sure. So I end up writing a script called Delirium Tremens. And I actually ended up selling it this year, but I didn't sell it back then. Something happened with the financier. But I really spent a lot of time. Oh, Nico's being bad boy. Being bad, baby? I'm doing a video. You being bad? Being bad boy, Nico? Uh-oh. I guess Nico's being bad. So Delirium Tremens, the whole concept was based on when Karina and I used to squat when we were homeless and living in abandoned houses. We were both physically dependent on alcohol. I thought of this when we were strung out. What if some alcoholics get trapped, they're squatting in an abandoned house, and they wake up and all the windows have been boarded shut, and they're trapped in this house and they're going through hallucinatory withdrawals, right? And then there's serial killers or a group of killers in the house, but they can't differentiate between what's real and what's withdrawal. And they both have like this past and inner demons that they have to overcome to be able to conquer the external ones. And I'd never really finished a script. You know, I mean, I'd tried to write screenplays in my early 20s. But while I was in the joint this last time, first time I used it as like my creative writing school. You know, I learned how to write books. The second and third time I had my dad send me screenplay writing books, I used it as my film school. And I read 10 books about screenwriting, maybe 12. And then when I got home, I watched YouTube lectures and I watched director's commentary and I read literally hundreds of screenplays. And so I attempted to write one. It took me 1 week to write it, sent it to Nick. You know, Nick said that it was one of the best horror scripts that he'd ever read. His mom read it, said the same thing. And he tried to get his financier guy to do it. Financier friend pretty much reneged on it, didn't even read the script. So now I spent a week writing the script. I had this guy named Chris Miller, one of Paul's best friends. He was a director of horror films. He was really helping me, you know. And at one point, Glenn Danzig, the lead singer of The Misfits, was interested in directing it. I ended up getting Sean S. Cunningham directed Friday the 13th. And he also directed Friday the 13th, and he produced Last House on the Left, which is a Wes Craven movie. And he produced a lot of really solid horror movies. I got his phone number. I called him at 8 in the morning, cold call, and I got a meeting with him. And, you know, they read it. They liked it. They said they didn't want to move forward with it. You know, and they said that if they did take it on, that it was much too gratuitously violent for them. And I'm like, this is coming from the guy that directed the original Friday the 13th, which is, I mean, that is the definition of gratuitous violence, right? But he passed. Next one is I essentially cold called the director of The Butterfly Effect, but I emailed him. And I got a response a few days later from his wife, who's his business partner. They were living in New South Wales. And she said, hey, you know, we're going to pass on this, but we think that you have what it takes to work with us. You know, and they said, we have a lot of projects coming up. We think you're the perfect writer for it. And I told them I wrote it in a week. And they said, there's a lot of potential here. We want to take you out for dinner. So I ended up going out to dinner with them, or with one of them. And that was encouraging, you know. I mean, my first screenplay took me a week and I was getting dinners. You know, I had reached out to quite a few directors for it. The guy, Ryan Kelly, or Kelly Ryan, or something like that, was the director of Donnie Darko. I was trying to get him to direct it, and basically I never landed the deal until much later this year. You know, I sold it. It was my very first script I wrote. I didn't outline it. I didn't really flesh it out. But during that summer, after I quit and while I was working at the telemarketing place, I wrote the script thinking that that was going to be that. Okay, here's a source of money. You know, you get, for a screenplay, you get an option fee. It's like $500 to $1,000, which isn't a lot, but at the time that would have been pretty nice for me. But then you also get 6% of the budget, which can be a lot of money. You know, if it's a $3.6 million film, which it is now, you know, that's almost $250,000. It's $246,000 you get. And now I'm getting into the Writers Guild. But so that's the kind of stuff I had going on at the time. And then the Al Profit interview is coming up. So I was basically just running around trying to make shit happen. Now, this guy Shamrock had told me that, or I mean, not Shamrock. Shamrock's friend, who we'll call Joey. Joey's the guy that he was like the Santa Barbara weed legend that, you know, he owned the first dispensary. Everybody knew him. Very, very famous in the game. Big time guy, got busted, moved to Belgium. And he's the guy who I talked his friend into going to the psych ward. So, you know, Joey told me that he could get me a sit down with Shamrock. And he felt that Shamrock owed me the $70,000. Well, $70,000 at that time would have completely changed my life. You guys probably would never have seen me. I don't know what I would have done with $70,000, but, you know, I was like, okay, cool. He's going to have a sit down with me, you know. And this guy from Belgium, he flies to Santa Barbara periodically, and he said, I'm going to be in town. You need to come up here. We'll sit down for dinner. That's the only way that you're going to get this dude to pay you. Okay, cool. So then after my birthday, I go on, God, I'm fucking the chronology up and I'm not meaning to. After my birthday, I go on the Al Profit show, right? And that day was interesting because the Friday, it was a Thursday night that I got a phone call. And I got a phone call from one of my friends. He's a novelist. He's also a world famous tattoo artist. He tattooed Thug Life on Tupac. You know, he was like one of those guys that was doing celebrity tattoos in like the late 80s, early 90s. He's tattooed on everyone. Kate Moss, Johnny Depp, Velvet Underground, Marilyn Manson, Iggy Pop. You know, big, pretty impressive. Tupac, all impressive people, right? He calls me, and I've been friends with this guy for years. He calls me at 7 a.m, 4 times. It's the Thursday before the weekend that I went on Al Profits. I went on Al Profits on a Saturday. So he calls me like 4 times in a row at 7 a.m. I was like, you know, getting ready to go to work. I didn't pick up, but I noticed that he called. Then he texts me and he asks me, you know, how I'm doing. And, you know, he's like, hey, I got to talk to you when you get a chance. Okay, cool. So I end up connecting with him when I'm driving home from work. I give him a call. And he says, hey, Johnny Depp, red wasting talent. I told him about you. And he wants to meet you. Can you come to his house tonight? I was in shock, you know, and I was like, yeah, man, for sure. He's like, okay, great. I'll tell him you're coming. So this was a Thursday night. He calls me back an hour later. He says, hey, tonight's not the night that it's going to happen, but can you do Saturday? I said, Saturday's fine. So, like, needless to say, I mean, I'm a big Johnny fan because I love Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas so much. I mean, I'm a fucking gonzo guy. You know, I just got the tattoo of the, can you see it? The Gonzo fist tattoo, but it's like a knife. You know, meeting John, I mean, John, come on, Edward Scissorhands, Boston George, Raoul Duke, you know, Paul Kemp and the Rum Diaries. Like, this guy is like one of my heroes. I idolized him. So I get a call. It's going to happen on Saturday. Okay, cool. Now, you really got to appreciate this. At the time, I'm commuting 2 hours each way to work. There's the $70,000 that I may or may not get. I'm not sure yet. And Johnny Depp just invited me up to his fucking house. It was just mind-blowing to me. I'm basically going and working at a homeless shelter. That's what it was. I mean, everyone had like backpacks with sleeping bags and shit. It's like the kind of job where like pretty much they'll hire anybody, and that's who they hire, is anybody. So Friday comes along, and so I'm going to meet Johnny on Saturday, and I'm going to be on Out Profits on Saturday, same day. That weekend was one of the best weekends of my whole life, I'd say. Probably like the most important weekend of my life, for a number of reasons. So Friday comes, Seth Ferrante hits me up. He goes, "Hey man, I'm in LA. Do you want to hang out?" Now, I'd asked Seth to be the godfather of Nico for a number of reasons. He represents everything that I want for Nico. Strength, perseverance, tenacity, kindness, generosity, loyalty. I'm not talking about the fact that he was a drug kingpin or that he was, in prison for 21 years. I'm talking about the fact that he fucking published, like 20 books. He's super fucking well-known journalist. Writes for Vice, Penthouse, Feds, Don Diva. He's very well-known in the prison system. Everybody knows who that is. And now he went on to produce the White Boy Rick movie, which, God, what a story. That guy really turned it around. He's a big source of inspiration. So he was here with his wife, and was he with his wife? No, he wasn't on that trip. It was me, him, and this girl Allison, who's a music supervisor for she worked on the Joker movie. She did the music. She's doing the music for my movie. It's basically the person that gets all the music rights, but it's a tough job. She negotiates, and she's been doing a really good job on my film. Songs are very expensive. Even to get obscure songs like that Brian Jonestown is $3,000. Some songs are $50,000, $60,000. I'm using Eminem. That could be up to like $100,000. But we'll let the distributor take care of that. So, we hang out at the beach, smoke a joint. I'm on probation at the time. I'm on AB 109. They're not even drug testing me though. It's very kicked back, and basically said I could smoke weed anyway. So we smoke a joint at the beach, we hang out, and he goes, "Hey man, do you want to meet Freeway Ricky Ross?" Now, I'd never met Freeway before. I knew him. We talked on the phone. He was going to come do that prison reform event with me, but I'd never met him in person. So I was like really excited to meet Freeway, because Freeway is a fucking legend. And I hate when people say that he's a rat, because he's not at all. The police set this guy up. He testified and said what really happened. Like, if you think it's okay to just keep your mouth shut when crooked cops fucking set you up and give you a life sentence, you're tripping. That's not ratting, dude. That's like, you're talking about cops, A. B, crooked cops that got away with literally like geopolitical crimes. Iran-Contra with the Reagan administration, Ollie North and all that. If you're familiar with the case, you know what I'm talking about. So we end up going to Freeway's house. Freeway lives in South Central LA. Straight up hood, and me, Karina, Nico, Seth, and that girl Allison go over there. So Freeway lives, like I said, in South Central LA. I go to his house and I meet him. He's wearing a hood that says Freeway. And, Seth is like, "Hey, what's up, man?" Like, they're really good friends. I think they did time together. I don't know. I think he might have just covered him. I'm not sure. But they're like, Freeway loves Seth. Seth loves Freeway. Wearing a hood. We end up going into his house and, sit down with him. And we just start talking. And Epstein had just supposedly killed himself. So that was a big topic of conversation, We're all saying that it's bullshit, that there's no way he killed himself. Like, we've all been to the feds. We all know how it works in federal custody. The way that they said it went down, impossible, I may do a whole video on that. Nico, about 10 minutes after being there, just pukes on Freeway's floor. Which is pretty classic, Someday I'm going to tell Nico that he met one of the biggest cocaine dealers in history, and within the first 10 minutes of meeting him, he puked on his floor like a straight gangster. And Freeway was super sweet about it, super cool. You know, he was telling me all sorts of crazy ass shit. Crazy, like, conspiracy theory stuff that he was saying was not conspiracy theory stuff. Stuff that I'm not going to repeat, but fascinating to hang out with somebody that's that legendary, you know? And, you know, I just felt like I was on a roll that weekend, you know? We stayed there for a couple hours, I got a picture with him. It's on my Instagram. But he was super nice, and, you know, he gave me his phone number, and I already, you know, had talked to him on the phone before, but I had a new phone. Gave it to me, said, call me anytime you want. Cool. So that's how we became friends, you know? I mean, I'd met him over the phone, but that was it. And so I got to actually meet him, and we hit it off. And we're friends to this day. Friends with his son, too, Jamal. They're both really, really, really solid stand-up guys. So that's why it pisses me off when people talk shit about him being a snitch or whatever. People throw that word around when there's not paperwork, you know. And what he did, to me, isn't snitching, you know. Boston George, that's a whole nother fucking can of worms. He is a snitch. But, you know, I mean, supposedly Pablo Escobar gave the orders to do it. That never really sat well with me. That doesn't matter. I'm good friends with George's daughter and ex-wife Mirtha. So I guess there's some bias there because he's really treated them badly. But, okay, so the next day I wake up. Seth was staying at Al's house, downtown LA. Al is very successful. He drives a Porsche. He lives in a penthouse, or he used to. It was in downtown LA. And, you know, he's just, I don't know. I'd never really been to a successful YouTuber's house or hanged out with him. Super cool, right? So I get there. He's genuinely interested in me. I brought him a signed copy of Wasting Talent. Very grateful, very respectful. They buy me a Monster Energy drink, pack of cigarettes, you know, anything I want, they got. And so I do the interview, you know, with my sunglasses on. People are commenting that I was on coke on that interview. I wasn't on anything, you know, I was on Suboxone, that was it. So I don't know. I don't know why I felt the need to put on the sunglasses. I think that I was just kind of like playing the part, kind of as a joke for my people that know me. That think it's funny. You know, I'm on some interview on a pretty big platform telling a story about being a big drug dealer and wearing these aviators. And of course, you know, Al marketed it that I was like a kingpin in Santa Barbara, and a lot of people laughed at that term. You know, I mean, at one point I was fairly big there, you know, I mean, I don't know, kingpin's the right word, but I was definitely selling drugs on like the level that Seth Ferrante was, and he got charged with being a kingpin. Only reason I didn't get charged like that, I don't know if I was a kingpin, you know, I think that's probably an exaggerated term for me, but I definitely was selling drugs on like a level that most people won't see. You know, most people will never see 10 kilos of a drug in their lifetime. You know, it's a lot of fucking drugs, you know. 10,000 grams of cocaine or Molly, you know, or whatever. It's a lot. Most people never see that. So interview goes well. And the plan to meet Johnny as his friend, our mutual friend, was going to come be on Al Prophet's show as well, do an interview, and then we go up to Johnny's house. So he ends up meeting me. We go to Johnny Depp's house, and fuck, man, you know, it's a magical experience. Like, he was so cool to me. I'll tell the story in detail on the Parting with Celebrities series. I think I might start with the Johnny Depp one because it's a super fucking good story. And I got to save some content for the $100 tier. So, you know, I met him, ended up going to his house at like 5 at night. And I left at like 7 or 8 a.m. And yeah, it was incredible. I mean, I'll say one thing. At one point, he brought me into his office, and him and I read each other handwritten letters that Hunter S. Thompson had written him. And he said that I was the only other person that he had ever shown those to. And he gave me Hunter's cigarette holder, you know, the same one that's tattooed on me. That right there I own that. He said that Hunter had given him that when he was shooting Fear and Loathing. And he said that he wanted to pass the torch of Gonzo on to me. You know, that I was like the next Gonzo guy. And I mean, you know, as somebody that has too weird to live, too rare to die, multiple Hunter and Gonzo tattoos, I mean, even the snake ordinance has a very Gonzo feel to it. I mean, it was magical, you know? It was like some shit that made me really emotional, you know, just to like think about everything I'd gone through, and then that moment kind of, you know, just everything kind of culminated to that moment right there. But I was still poor, you know. It's like I went to Fantasyland, and he even, you know, he was like, hey man, like, I want to help you, you know, what can I do to help you in your career? Later he would guest star on Drug Stories for Truckers and do the Hunter stuff. So it was all pretty amazing stuff, you know. And so I get the call after all this, you know, well, after the Al Prophet video, I just started getting subscribers, and then I was on Lockdown, and then I was on Big Herc, and then I was on Simon Rex, and the stuff just started happening, and my channel started getting bigger and bigger, and I started making enough money where I quit my job. It was like right after I'd gone to Johnny's house, I just couldn't take being yelled at by people that were just like arbitrarily fucked up to me because they were making $18 an hour as managers, and I was making, you know, 15 or whatever. So I just quit, and I come home, and, you know, Karina's like, well, what the fuck are we gonna do? I'm like, you know, I'll just start going to food banks every day. I don't care if I have to drive, you know, an hour each way. And that's what I did. I started going to food banks while I was trying to figure out how to make more money. And the YouTube thing got monetized within a week. I started making like pretty good money on that, you know, like, I don't know. At first it was like $1,000 a month. I'm not making as much as I was in the beginning off YouTube because, you know, I'm really focusing on Patreon, the subscription model, because it sustains me and I offer something that you guys want, but I have to, you know, tell more stories. And I realize that, but I have a lot, you know. Right now I'm definitely like coming down off the peyote, and I don't, you know, you can probably tell I'm not in my normal clown mood, but still doesn't mean I can't tell a story. So I get, you know, this goes on. I start making money from the YouTube. I'm definitely making enough to support my family because we're used to not having shit. So we're still living very minimally. You know, I'm rolling cigarettes, and, you know, now I'm able to eat with my family. Like when I say that I would not eat for a couple days so that I could feed them, I'm like, that's like real shit. I mean, just think about that. Like, think about then and now. And you guys fucking did that for me. I can't even say how fucking grateful. That's why I pushed so hard for the gifts, even though everyone told me that was stupid. I lost so much fucking money on that. Like, you know, I've been like, I have $40 to my name right now, and I've been making good money, but like shit cost a lot, you know. I was giving people blotters and books and, you know, just shit that costs money to produce. Then there's the shipping, which I'm grateful I have Joe to help me with. You know, he gets hooked up. He's got some good deals, like he does package deals and stuff, but still the overhead for all of it's a lot of money. So I still wanted that 70,000 very badly. And, you know, after I met Johnny Depp, I don't know if it like inflated my ego or if it just made me know my worth. And I just said, you know what, fuck this. And I was jobless, and I really started having to go to food banks like every day. So I get the call from this guy, Joey, the legendary weed guy in Santa Barbara. And he tells me that, you know, that the meeting is going to go down for me to come up to Santa Barbara and essentially be on call. So I go up to Santa Barbara, and him and I had never met. I go to his house, and he goes, hey man, you know, I think we should bond before I take you to sit down with Shamrock. And I was like, dude, this definitely has all the signs of a butt fucking. What are you trying to do, man? He's like, I'm trying to do mushrooms. I was like, oh, thank God. I mean, for 70 racks, I was about to let someone butt fuck me. He's like, wait, what? All right. We don't have to do mushrooms. We can do that. I'm like, no. Let's do the mushrooms. So I end up eating mushrooms with this guy. I don't know, fucking not much. Half-eighth, maybe an eighth or something. And I end up tripping with him. Another story I'll save for the psychedelic series, because this is more about what happened with Sass and Shamrock. So I do mushrooms with this guy. Like, I'd never met him before, and he's just like, from that school of thought that you can't really hide who you are when you're tripping on mushrooms. Your ego gets transcended momentarily, and that's why it's espoused so much in Eastern mysticism. So I do the mushrooms with him, and the next day I'm supposed to go out to dinner with Shamrock. Doesn't happen. I don't even get a call. And then this guy Joey's not responsive, so I'm thinking, man, did he figure out I was a bitch while we were tripping? He calls his boys hey man, yeah, I'm with no, can't talk right now, I'm with some bitch. They're like, is she hot? He's like, no, I'm talking about some dude, he's a fucking lame. Yeah, you punk. No, that didn't happen. But he never calls me the next day. So I end up leaving Santa Barbara disappointed. I mean, I was already planning on what I was going to do with the 70 G's. I was getting brochures for trips to Maui, and I was going to buy a timeshare. I was going to, invest in some sort of digital currency with it, try to make some money off it. But it didn't happen. So now I'm getting really desperate. I'm having to go to food banks. I'm having to go to church to get gas vouchers so I can go to the food tanks or the food banks. So it's becoming this whole fucking thing. I'm starting to make money off YouTube, but I still have to go to food banks. I'm only making $1,000 a month. And then I'm making maybe $300 or $400 a month off the royalties. But my rent is $1,800. And I have to support Karina, Nico, and So now I'm I'm going to plan 2. So I know where this guy owns a dispensary. I know where it is. It's in a very desolate location in a mountain town. And that's where he lives, because that's where his farm is, and that's where this girl that I know worked. So I'm like, I guess I'm going to have to figure something else out. So, being the creative scumbag that I am, I conceptualize a plan that I personally think is genius, but that's been disputed by some people that I know. But I'm like, okay, this guy lives in a desolate place. The guy knows that I was connected to a drug cartel. What if I borrow some money from Nick, I go to some costume store and get them super fancy mariachi band fucking suits or whatever. Not all crazy with the weird wiggles on it or whatever. Nothing that's gonna actually look mariachi, but something that looks expensive and it has a distinct Hispanic air to it. I have friends in West Covina that are homeless, right? But they're homeless, OG Southsiders, that have handlebar mustaches, and they have a bunch of cheap prison ink. They look just like the Mexican mafia. So my plan is to go up to this dispensary and pay 2 of my homeless friends that look like Mexican mafia guys to come and go up to this dispensary and extort him for the money. And if, there's going to be a fee that I have to give these guys, even though they're OG guys and they're homeless, I'm still not going to take advantage of that. So I have to give them a cut like any collection deal would go on. And my plan is to go up to this farm dispensary and just hang out in my car until we see him, and have those guys go up to him and say, hey, you owe this dude money, and you owed him 70, but since you're flaking out on the dinner to resolve it, we want 100. That's the juice. That's the interest. And I knew that by doing this, Well, I just dropped a cigarette. Oh, shit. Ugh, I dropped it in like spider webs and shit. That's gross. I'm still gonna smoke it though, because I'm such a junkie. I'll just rip the filter off. It's probably like the best way to do it. So I don't smoke like a black widow, or I don't inhale a black widow egg or something. Alright, so I approach, the problem is I don't have money. So I call Nick and I'm like, hey man, think I can borrow a couple $100. And we have that relationship, we lend each other money, and fortunately I'm in a position where I can do that more. But, I get the money to go to this costume rental store. I hit up these guys and I say, hey, do you want to go on a mission with me to collect this? I'll give you guys each $100 for the day. I'll get you lunch. I'll buy you cigarettes, etc., etc. They're like, cool, we're in. So I end up taking them to a costume shop, and I get them exactly what I thought I'd get them. Some sharp suits that make these guys look official. This Shamrock guy, he's like a hippie, like a passive hippie. He's a pacifist, And I know that if I show up with these two dudes, that I'm going to be able to squeeze them out of 100,000. So we get the costumes, and we go up to Santa Barbara, which was funny because I needed like a base to stay at, and Jeff just happened to be out of town. Like, I have a relationship with Jeff where I can stay there whenever I want. Nick and I stayed there a couple nights on our trip, the 2 nights that we were in Santa Barbara. So I show up to my parents' house with these 2 homeless guys in suits, but they have handlebar mustaches, and I tell my dad, I'm like, don't trip these guys. I don't want to, concern you. But these guys are part of an organized crime network called the Mexican Mafia, and they kill people. So they're going to stay in the guest room. My dad's like, okay. And then my mom was like, gosh, Ryan, you have the most interesting friends. I'm like, yeah, well, these guys are cool. They have decapitated heads in their duffel bags. My mom's like, oh, Ryan, you're so funny. Maybe that would be true if they were actually who I said they were, but they really look like the real deal. We didn't have any guns or anything, but what I did do the next day is I went to the pharmacy. I bought a kid's gun with the orange cap, and then I went home and got a Sharpie, and I colored it, made it look like a real gun. And, I said, hey, if he doesn't just give the concession and give up the money that he owes me right away, well then, you're just going to have to whip out this plastic gun, and I'll give you an extra $20. And they're like, dude, $20? I'm fucking down. Yeah, dog, for $20, I'll pretty much do anything. I'll fucking 69, all that shit, dog. I'm not even being honest, kinda. I wanna fucking do 69, dog. Damn, fool. You got a badass boho. It fucking tastes like Tabasco. Oh, dog. You're fucking spicy. So, we get this fake gun, and this place is located about 2 hours away from Santa Barbara. My dad gives me a little gas money. I tell my dad what's up. I'm like, hey, this dude owes me money, and I'm choosing, like, the nicer approach by doing it like this, right? So my dad, like, whatever, was like, okay, well, here's gas money. And this was like my only hope. I had nothing else that I thought could sustain me. YouTube was starting to give me money, but it wasn't like enough to be as comfortable as we needed to be. And I couldn't pay my own rent either. That was another problem. My dad was paying, and I was getting more and more in debt. So we end up getting up at this dispensary. Like I said, it's in a very desolate location, and we go there, and we sit in the parking lot. Now we're sitting in the parking lot, and the homeless outsider guys are like, hey, how long we gonna be here, dog? I need to get back so I can smoke some methamphetamine. I was like, okay, well, check it out. We came here for a purpose. We're gonna wait. So we're sitting in the car, and 2 pretty big, like, white, probably like Hell's Angels type guys, bikers, beards, all that shit. They come up to my car and they go, hey man, you guys have been sitting here for a couple hours. What's up? And the Mexican dudes, I'd like train them if anyone asked to say, and they said, well, we're here because we got a problem with Shamrock, and we got to resolve that shit right now, dog. This Gabacho has a problem with Shamrock. And just to be completely honest with you, kinda, that shit ain't cool with me, dog. We need to talk to him right now. And so the senior guy goes, well, it appears that we have a major fucking problem then. And, you know, my Southsider, he's not back. He's like, yeah, well, I guess that we do, dog. You're fucking fat, fool. Palabra. And the guy's like, you know, he is like a big heavy set guy. So he gets on like this little, I don't even know, it looks like a pager, but it's a walkie-talkie. He gets on that, and he says that there's a problem in the parking lot. 4 of these guys come out. And they're wearing suits, just like my guys. And one of them kind of like lifts up his, you know, his pocket to show me, or his pant jacket to show me that he's strapped. And I remember the Southsiders looking at me like, well, you know, maybe we are in some trouble. That was just the look they gave me. They didn't say that. We will get into what happens in the next installment of the saga. Thank you guys so much. I appreciate every single one of you. I'm really not in a condition to do videos, but I'm trying really, really hard to do it for you guys. Thank you. Much love. Palabra.